And joining us live via Zoom from Bogota, Colombia is Donnie Rothstein, a filmmaker and tour guide. And his new film takes place on the island of Mallorca, telling the story of the Xueta community of Catholic descendants of Spanish Jews forced into conversion during the Inquisition. Hello and welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Hi, Emily. Thanks so much for having me.
So this is a very, very exciting venture, and you get the pleasure of documenting and touring the world. But let's start with what happened, how you ended up in Mallorca and discovering all of these secret Jewish communities.
I've been working as a TV producer for the past 20 years. I landed a great job with Palma Pictures on the island of Mallorca. I'd never been there before. And I thought going to Mallorca island, Spain, that I might be the only Jew living on the island. And I was very wrong when I learned that there was an Orthodox synagogue there started by British Ashkenazi Jews and in the 70s. And when I went there for my first time, I realized that they were not counting all of the men there for minyan, for the 10 Jewish men in order to say certain prayers. And I was super confused. I couldn't understand. There were 14 men in the men's section. And I asked the guy next to me, why are we skipping when we obviously have a minyan? And he said, oh, that's because some of these men are not Jewish, they're Xueta. And I'd never heard this term Xueta before. And so I started investigating. I went online. There was not that much information in English about this phenomenon. And I would learn that there are 15 infamous last names in Mallorca, and that these families have been marrying within these 15 families for the past centuries. Basically because they were always treated as second-class citizens because they are the Catholic descendants of the Jewish conversos.
Tell us about your plans and what you're doing to kind of open this up to other countries that have received converso Jews hundreds of years ago.
Yeah, so I'm traveling with my wife and our 3-year-old son, and we figured now was the time to do it with our little guy. And so we're going all over South America, Ecuador, Colombia, Brazil, and we're visiting the different Jewish communities that exist in all of these countries. And we're also visiting, Emily, these things, new phenomenon here called emerging communities, which definitely are people who believe and might have Jewish roots, but also people who are not with any Jewish backgrounds. And so you have perhaps like churches who number of families are wanting to convert to Orthodox Judaism. And it's incredible because I'll spend a Shabbat with a traditional community, perhaps from descendants of Jewish European immigrants who came to Colombia. But then the very next Shabbat, I'll go to an emerging community where it is hundreds of people, all conversos, all people who've found Judaism within the last 10 or 20 years. And you wouldn't be able to tell the difference, Emily. I mean,
wow.
Both communities are exactly the same, but they're not really integrating. They're kind of having these parallel communities that are growing and going on at the same time, which I find fascinating.
Well, at least these communities, we know are able to somewhat, start identifying, because like you said, and not only did it end in the 1800s, but even the Alhambra decree wasn't revoked until like the 1960s or something. So at least now kind of the fear and the veil is being lifted a little bit to give them that opportunity to be open with it.
Absolutely. And I think it's not just something that happened on a small, tiny island in the middle of the Mediterranean. This actually is a global phenomenon. You are having people with crypto-Jewish roots in New Mexico. You're finding it in Africa, in many, many different places all over the world. And I think it's something that we need to be talking about. And how are we going to accept people, help people return, help them on their Jewish journey, as opposed to closing the door.
Right. Donnie, thank you so much, and keep up the good work, and we'll see you here in Israel soon.
Thank you so much, Emily. Appreciate it.